I'll take a question from the gentleman in the back while the...
Think there's any chance after the next election this will be repealed?
Oh, so the $20 trillion question, will this be repealed possibly after the next election? Our election this year is really a congressional election. We could see a shift in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. When you're able to corner a senator, like I cornered the senator from Utah where I live, Orrin Hatch, I said, he's very conservative, and I said, is health reform going to be repealed? He said, we needed something to change. We want to see how it's going to play out. Now, he says different things in the media because he's wanting to, be political, but they want to see how it's going to play out. If the current president stays in office, or if we have a Democratic president elected in 2016, it's highly unlikely. I mean, President Obama is not going to accept any kind of a repeal. He'll veto it. He's already said that he would veto that and say, no, I'm not going to accept this. If we get a Democrat as president in 2016, we'll probably see some changes. We are not going to see a wholesale repeal. If changes are introduced, and it's introduced as wholesale reform of reform, it's going to take years to get that passed. We'll see piecemeal changes on some of the worst issues, things like the shockers of those plans that satisfy right at that minimum value. We'll see them tighten up. I'm going to have full employment for at least the next 10 years, if that tells you anything. So that's my 10-year strategic plan. Yes, sir?
So without thinking about the issues of employee attraction and retention, I've done the math. It's way cheaper for me to pay the penalty than pay the premium. So why wouldn't I do that?
The question is, doing the math, for getting employee attraction and retention, it's less expensive to pay the penalty than it is to provide the coverage, at least on first blush. We've done the analysis for most of our larger clients who are going to be subject to this, and generally, because the penalty is not deductible, but providing the health benefits is, that's a big difference. And then also you have to take into account the expectation. If I lose my health insurance through Hub, I will go and ask for a raise. So will every employee who's already had health insurance. And then you'll also have the situation of the employees saying, you don't offer health insurance, I need a raise, plus you need to pay me more because that raise is taxable. I have this bigger expense now because of what you're doing. So we've done the math, and we have run into some situations, I would say maybe 6 or 7, where it is going to be less expensive for the employer to pay the penalty, but because of the deductibility and then the expectations of the employees, usually doesn't work. Maybe the first year, especially getting to subtract 80 employees from the penalty calculation, but not in future years. Yes, sir?
Do you ever see this legislation dropping down to companies with less than 50 employees, or can you say, no way, it never happens?
Do we see it dropping down to groups with less than 50 employees? I would say it's not going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years anyway, just because there's so much more obligations, and that 50 employee level is somewhat sacrosanct in the U.S. We don't like to see federal laws applying below that 50 employee level, just because then you're imposing an obligation on small businesses who really can't afford it. And there's so many of the businesses in the U.S. are below 50 employees. I mean, the number is just astronomical. I've seen it quoted as high as into the 90% of the total number of employers are in that small group. And it directly affects employment numbers, because the employer would much rather not have that extra person who takes them over 15 or 20 or wherever they might set the threshold otherwise. Well, again, thank you all very much, and I think there's a prize, and I think I'm the only thing standing between you all and reception. So thank you again.